I've hit the go live button. That's telling me we've gone live, Andy.
Okay, so my clock has just tipped over to 12:30. So I'm going to start our annual Manchester Alumni Association Open Meeting. Welcome to all of you, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching on the recording. I'm Katherine Leopold. I'm the current chair of the Alumni Association, and I'm joined today by Professor April McMahon, who's Vice President for Teaching, Learning and Students, and Richard Screaton, who is Deputy Director, Alumni Relations. So as a reminder, you can ask questions while we're going through if you're watching live, and you can do that by going to slido.com and using the code #UOM2023. So UOM 2023. And there's a link underneath the video that you can click on if you want to access that directly. So we're going to start by hearing from April, who's going to give us an update on university business and achievements. Over to you, April.
Thanks so much, Katherine, and welcome everyone. However, whenever and wherever you're listening to this event, it's always such a pleasure to link up with some of our amazing alumni. There's a lot of you out there, and we hope that we'll be able to give you some information today that will be of interest to you, maybe answer some of your questions too. So, back in September, let me start by telling you about some positive news that you might have read about already that we got from the Office for Students, and that's about our Teaching Excellence Framework ratings. So Teaching Excellence Framework, or TEF, is an exercise that we go through as part of our registration with the Office for Students every 4 years. But it's incredibly valuable to us as higher education providers because it helps us to figure out how we improve and really drive excellence in the things that our students care about. So the quality of teaching, their learning resources and support, and achieving positive outcomes. And student outcomes for the purposes of TEF means that they stay with us after their first year, they successfully complete their programme of study, and they go on to an amazing graduate job afterwards. So I'm very pleased to say that the University of Manchester is silver overall in TEF. And we're silver for student experience, and we're gold for student outcomes. That was a very cheery day, especially the gold for student outcomes, because that just is testament to how fabulous our alumni are. And the fact that you go away from Manchester and you do amazing things. So all of that is reflected in our TEF ratings. So thank you. It also reflects the support that we give to our Manchester students, including the support that you give them as alumni, which help them secure fantastic careers. And Silver for Student Experience tells us, yes, we've got work to do, but also that we've made really great progress in flexible learning, in support for teaching and our curricula and our resources, as well as all the amazing things our students do in terms of volunteering, for instance, to help to make Manchester the wonderful place that it is. So moving on from teaching excellence to our rankings in various league tables, those continue to show that we have an excellent reputation as one of the world's leading universities. And that demonstrates the value of having a Manchester degree on your CV too. We're placed 32nd globally and 6th in the UK in the QS University World Rankings. And we climbed to 51st this year in the latest Times Higher Education World University Rankings. And as you'll be well aware, social responsibility is one of our core goals. And we're so delighted to be ranked first in the UK, first in Europe, and second in the world in this year's Times Higher Education Impact Rankings. And as you may know, those are based on our performance against the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And that shows how we're mainstreaming, if you like, social responsibility and sustainability in the work that we do. Because those impact rankings cover the social and environmental contribution of universities across their whole range of functions. So that's research, it's teaching and students, it's public engagement and operations. And alumni play a big part in all of that work. And you'll hear from Katherine a little bit about that later on, specifically around volunteering, for instance. Manchester has also been awarded a Silver Award by the Race Equality Charter. We are one of only 2 higher education institutions in the UK to hold that Silver Award. That's really precious to us because you'll have heard me speak before, if you've been on this event before for alumni, about how hard we're working to try to really equalise opportunity and make sure that we're seeing that through in terms of a whole range of protected characteristics, but including ethnicity. That's really crucial to the work that we do. And our submission for the award from the Race Equality Charter featured a bold, ambitious and sustainable plan to eliminate racial inequalities and become an anti-discriminatory, anti-racist, inclusive organisation where absolutely everybody can feel a sense of belonging and can thrive. Speaking of rankings, which we still are, we heard just yesterday that we've been ranked first in the UK, first in Europe, and third in the world in the new QS sustainability rankings. And you can read more about that on our website. But while we're very proud of our work, of our place in the rankings, our work is just beginning. With the world facing really extraordinary challenges in environmental terms, it's crucial that universities like ours play a key role in finding solutions to help protect the future of our planet. And that's why the university has launched a new environmental sustainability strategy. And that's where we set out our commitment to using the whole range of our knowledge and influence to lead progress towards a healthier, more sustainable world. We're committing to a zero carbon future. That's not net zero, it is zero direct carbon emissions by 2038. How are we going to get there? Well, it isn't going to be easy. We will be engaging our staff, our students, the wider university and Manchester communities in a whole range of environmental initiatives. We're going to be embedding sustainable practices in all our plans and policies and our processes. And you can find out much, much more about that zero carbon future aim on our environmental sustainability website. The link is underneath this video. And you'll also find a link there to several case studies, which I think really help because they bring it all to life on how our discoveries are making an impact on a global scale. And that's everything from bringing clean water to the world to reducing the cost of offshore wind farms. So on to cost of living and the pressures that we talked about last year in this event on everybody, but specifically on our students. Those pressures have not gone away. Rising energy bills, food prices, other essential costs continue to take a toll on people across the UK, and that includes our students. We've been doing some, I believe, sector-leading work with our students' union, and we continue to support students with financial assistance, with mental health support, and helping them get part-time jobs, including on campus, and increasingly supporting them with budgeting advice. In March, we gave direct payments to 10,000 of our students to further help with the cost of living crisis. That's part of the most extensive cost of living support package available at any UK university. And our cost of living support fund is open to all students to make an application to help cover anything: food costs, rent costs, support with utility bills, anything they might need to help them access their study. And that means it's open to students regardless of their background, regardless if they're from the UK or if they're international students. So if you know a student who is worried about money at the university, please do encourage them to apply to our cost of living support fund. We also offer mental health and well-being support and lots of practical measures. Students say to us, we just want practical stuff, help us with that. So we're giving free period products across our campuses and our halls, emergency food vouchers if you're just stuck and you don't think you can eat healthily over the weekend. We've put a lot of funding into our cosy campus spaces, which are places that students can just be that are warm, and that means you don't need to go home and heat up your house if you can't afford to do that and you're worried about it. So lots of support and help for our students. More that we're doing for students in the future is about our residences and our accommodation plans. Many of you will have lived in our Fallowfield halls of residence, Owens Park, Oak House, Wooton Hall, when you first came to Manchester. And alumni often tell us they've got really fond memories of those halls of residence. They often ask us about our plans for them. So I can confirm that a planning application has been made to Manchester City Council to replace existing older accommodation on site and deliver 3,300 modern bed spaces. I put emphasis on modern because some of those spaces that we have at the moment, they are getting a little bit past their best before date. And we are very aware that our students need something that is more forward-looking. And so we're excited about that possibility. 3,300 bed spaces doesn't sound much when you say it fast, but it is a huge project. And so that's something that will take some years to finalise and deliver. And it will involve major redevelopment of Owens Park, Oak House, Wooton Hall, and others to meet the increasing demand for student bedrooms in safe and sociable surroundings. And of course, a safe and sociable place for students to live doesn't just help people in the halls, but it also promotes citywide regeneration objectives in supporting employment growth and graduate and talent retention, and making sure that Manchester is developed as a city of choice on the international market. More on support for students, and this is an exciting one. Earlier this year, we announced a partnership between the Raheem Sterling Foundation, founded by the Chelsea and England footballer, as I'm sure you would recognise, and it's a partnership between Raheem Sterling's foundation and the University of Manchester and King's College in London. And the partnership is going to support 14 students with scholarships to enable them to study at those universities. And this is part of a bid to help close the attainment gap for Black British students and therefore increase social mobility and support equal access to higher education. Manchester is a place that holds a special meaning for Raheem, and we're delighted to be working with the foundation to support its efforts to increase social mobility and remove obstacles for really talented young people from the Greater Manchester region to help them to reach their potential. Our first 2 scholars started this year, and we're at the beginning of an exciting journey thanks to Raheem's support, and we look forward to sharing their stories with you. We'll be looking for opportunities to do that very soon. And of course, we do offer many more scholarships to help welcome the best and the brightest, regardless of their background, to come to the University of Manchester. Many of those scholarships are only possible because of support from you, from our amazing alumni who are so generous, and you'll be hearing a little bit more about that later on too. Right, from people back to buildings, and specifically the Patterson building. In May, we opened the doors of the new Patterson building. It's our world-leading cancer research building. You may well remember that back in 2017, The former Patterson Research Building had a devastating fire and had to be closed. And so this new building has been a real opportunity to design something specially to speed up the fight against cancer. It brings researchers and doctors and nurses together under one roof so they can work together to translate science into solutions more quickly. And most importantly, that space will allow us to develop new clinical trials, which will directly help to improve cancer outcomes and increase survival rates. And it's only a stone's throw away from the UK's largest single-site cancer hospital, the Christie. So that's a real input in action to bringing together all the areas of translational medicine and direct treatment to improve outcomes for people. Another building, an important one, even more important because of the exciting stuff that goes on in there, is the Manchester Museum, which is absolutely part of our campus. It opened its doors again in March following a £15 million renovation. And it's stunning. If you haven't been back to the museum, please find an opportunity to come and see it. There's not only 4.5 million artifacts in there, but there's a staggeringly beautiful new exhibition hall, galleries dedicated to different cultures across the world, and it's reaffirmed its place already as one of the university's and Manchester's most exciting cultural attractions. And hardly believable, but I saw the queues myself, but 52,000 people visited in the first week. And many of them were there to see a fabulous exhibition, the Golden Mummies of Egypt exhibition. It's open until the end of this month, so if you happen to be coming to see us in Manchester before the end of this calendar year, please do book your spot. It would be amazing to see you in the museum, perhaps as part of a visit for our Bicentenary year. You'll be hearing more about that a little bit later. But also hot off the press, Monday was the Manchester Cultural Awards. And indeed, the museum did win the Premier Award, which is for Exhibition of the Year. And that's for our South Asia Gallery, which was actually developed through working with a collective of people from the South Asian community. And we're very well deserving of the win, I have to say. Let me tell you a tiny bit about honorary degrees. We had Foundation Day in October, and as part of that, every year we recognise remarkable individuals who have made outstanding contributions to society, which embody our values of knowledge and wisdom and humanity. And they are improving the lives of people in local communities, or they've created significant impact in their field of work. And this year, very thumbnail sketches, we gave honorary degrees to Deborah Gold, who is CEO of the National AIDS Trust, an organisation that's working to improve clinical treatment and national policy related to HIV and AIDS. Deborah also gave the Foundation Day lecture, which explored the ways that HIV and approaches to HIV have changed over past decades. And she particularly focused on the virtuous circle of HIV prevention. That means England now has the potential to end new HIV transmissions by 2030. We also gave an honorary degree to Professor Katherine Hall, who's a fellow of the British Academy. She's a world-leading authority on the history of empire and slavery and gender and class, with particular reference to 19th century Britain. And finally, last but not least, UMIST graduate Sir Kevin Leeson was also honoured. His distinguished career has seen him lead an RAF charity for 7 years, and that stimulated many thousands of young people's interest in aerospace and also provided educational funding for disadvantaged young people. So there was a lot there, and it's only scratching the surface, as they say. I wish we had time to tell you more. We can't possibly share everything that we would like to about the university in today's slot. But please do, if that's whetted your appetite at all, read your fortnightly email newsletter. Please look at the news pages of the university website and the University of Manchester magazine. And if you're not getting any of those things, and you know, clearly you ought to be if you're on this call, please do get in touch. There is more information about how to do that and how to access all of that information, again, underneath the video. So I am going to breathe in and out a bit, having delivered all of that news at breakneck pace, and hand back over to Katherine for an update on alumni community achievements and contributions, which I'm looking forward to hearing about too. Thank you, Katherine.
Thank you very much, April. I know that we do a lot, and I know there's a lot to talk about, but it's when you hear it all in one place and you just think, oh heavens, there's so much going on. But everything you've talked about there has got one thing in common, and that's our people. So whether it's life-saving research, life-changing teaching, gold medals, green spaces, everything that we do at the university as people, students, colleagues, you, our alumni, at its heart, you all play a part in the wonderful achievements that you've been hearing about. Now, we don't have time to hear about all of them today, but I wanted to highlight a few of the ways that you, our alumni, have been making a difference. So starting with employability, and you'll have to forgive me if I stutter at times. I'm nursing the end of a cold and have a rather sore throat. But as April said, the Gold for Student Outcomes in the Teaching Excellence Framework recognises the excellent graduate jobs and further study that our newest graduates go on to. And a large part of that is down to you again, because you give up your time for Manchester students by volunteering to share advice with them, by offering workplace placements, and by simply inspiring them. So I'm reminded of Ella Podmore MBE, who's thriving as a senior materials engineer at McLaren Automotive and as a woman in a male-dominated industry. Ella's one of our youngest ever alumni to be awarded an MBE, having been named in the late Queen's Jubilee Birthday Honours list for her services to engineering, innovation and diversity. She's also one of our volunteers here at Manchester, regularly speaking to students about her career path. Ellen even brought one of the McLaren supercars that she works on to campus so she could talk about the challenges and opportunities that the electrification of supercars brings. After that talk, two young women in the first year of their materials science and engineering degrees came up to Ella and told her it was her who made them decide to study at Manchester. It's a perfect example of a Manchester graduate inspiring the next generation. But it's not all down to Ella. You gave almost 37,000 hours of your time to the university last year to help support students, recruit new students, particularly overseas, and to support each other and people in your communities. Now, as we heard from April, getting a great job or going on to further study is one of the things that our students care about the most. By being involved in interactive speed networking sessions, careers panels, giving talks, and even speaking from the stage at graduation, which I had the incredible honour to do this year. It was an amazing experience. I recommend it to you all. But you're all inspiring our students as they take the next step in their careers. Now, I can't continue without mentioning our wonderful Global Graduates Programme. And anybody that knows me knows that I love this programme. I wax lyrical about it. I think it's amazing. But COVID-19 meant that we couldn't do international travel, but now we can. So I'm delighted to say that we've been sending students around the world again to benefit from the programme. Now, for those of you that don't know about it, our wonderful alumni working in locations across the world, New York, Boston, Zurich, London, Hong Kong, Dubai, Singapore and San Francisco, invite Manchester students into their workplace for a week of business meetings. Now, the programme focuses on those students who are from backgrounds where people typically don't go into a university education, and some of them won't have left the UK before. The impact this has on our students is huge. It helps to raise their aspirations, it increases their cultural awareness, makes them aware of career options they might not have considered or been aware of, and increases their confidence in networking. We've recently been talking to some of our alumni who took part in Global Graduates when they were students at Manchester. And I'd like to highlight this quote, which demonstrates the value that the programme has. At the time of participating in the Global Graduates programme, I was between my second and third years of uni and starting to consider what I wanted to do with my life afterwards. I was stuck between two broad ideas: follow my heart and work in the charity sector, or do something closer to my degree title in the private sector. Through my weeks spent in San Francisco, I decided to take a leap into the charity sector, and it's the best decision I've ever. I have met so many students on Global Graduates, people who've done Global Graduates. It has such an impact, and it's an impact that magnifies through those students' connections and through their communities. So if you're one of the volunteers that supported it, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. It's brilliant. Keep doing it. Now, those 37,000 hours that I mentioned earlier also include the time that you give for our Manchester Day of Action programme. As you've heard from April, we've been ranked first in the UK, first in Europe, and second in the world in this year's Times Higher Education Impact Rankings. Our wonderful Manchester Day of Action programme contributes to our position in this ranking. Spanning 6 continents, the event takes place over a month, where groups of you get together to volunteer your time to local community projects. And I want to share an example from this year's Manchester Day of Action that demonstrates how easy it is to get involved. It was a park cleanup. It's as simple as that. 20 graduates in Singapore met at Bishan Ang Mo Kio Park, enjoyed breakfast together, and then got to work to pick litter and make the park a better place for the local community. It demonstrated the beauty of the Manchester Day of Action and how making a difference can be something so simple, something that everybody can get involved in. You don't need to already have lots of local connections. You don't need to have a whole team of complex volunteer organisation. You need an idea. You need to have the will to make it happen, and then you crack on and do it. And we know that's one of the things that Manchester alumni do best. Now, volunteering comes in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and we simply don't have time to talk about all the types of volunteering that you do for the university and each other. But we do have time to say the thank you. So whether you speak to students about your career, volunteer at recruitment events, volunteering in your community through the Manchester Day of Action, act as one of our international alumni contacts, our Global Graduates host, or you simply tell everybody that Manchester is an amazing place, thank you. And just to echo April's comments about the Manchester Museum, honestly, it's brilliant. Go back and visit it. Volunteering also comes in the form of donations, and I want to make a special thank you to those of you who donate to the university. We've put together the most extensive cost of living package of support for students available at any UK university, giving students financial assistance, mental health support, and budgeting advice. Now, much of that support simply would not be possible without our community of donors. Gifts from alumni like you provide scholarships, hardship grants, and help students to take part in university life. That last bit, enabling students to take part in university life, has such an impact on our students, because making enough to get by from a part-time job might mean that you don't have space to do all the value-add activities. And we know that's a really important part of the experience. So anything you do that supports that broader involvement in university life has an impact 1,000 times greater than you can imagine. It also means that we can respond quickly and effectively when things happen. Now, one particular example at the Manchester Museum is that Lee Kai-hung Chinese Culture Gallery, which is generously supported by Dr. Lee Kai-hung, who's a retired Hong Kong businessman and honorary graduate of the university. And that donation has helped to shape the new Manchester Museum, and donations, plural, have really helped to shape it. I'm sorry, my cold is getting in the way of my words. Now, donations also have helped create the amazing new Patterson building that April was talking about, and that's the world leading cancer research building. the donations mean that those buildings can be filled with more fantastic people, more expert researchers. And alumni donations have already funded new postgraduate researchers in areas like stroke and cancer. And we hope to welcome many more donor-funded researchers as we look to our bicentenary year. It wouldn't be an open event without talking about some award winners. And in January, the UK India Achievers Awards were announced at a gala ceremony in London. 75 UK university graduates of Indian heritage were honoured. 8 of them were given the highest accolade of Outstanding Achiever. The University of Manchester was the only university to have 2 alumni named as Outstanding Achievers. This included Bollywood star Pariniti Chopra, who was effusive about her connection to the Alliance Manchester Business School and the university. Somdip Day, co-developer of the Nosh app, which is an AI-based food management app reducing food waste in the household, was a winner in the Education, Science and Innovation category. You can read more about Somdip in the latest University of Manchester magazine. There's a link to a feature about his work below this video. Making Difference Awards also recognise outstanding people. And it's an annual celebration of the kind of people who you've been hearing about today, staff, students and alumni who have a positive impact on the social well-being of our communities and wider society. So for 2024, we're introducing a brand new category for alumni, Outstanding Alumni Contribution to Social Responsibility. The award recognises contributions alumni make to creating a fairer, greener and healthier world, and contributions alumni make to creating a greater Manchester through supporting our students and communities in and around Greater Manchester. We need your nominations. If you or somebody you know has made a difference, please let us know. There's a link to the nomination form underneath this video. I think one of the things about the awards and the nominations is that there are so many of you. We are talking about so many alumni that we simply cannot identify them all ourselves. So we need you to be nominating, talking about the world, coming to the events, continuing to be involved, because that's how we get to hear more amazing stories. So I'm now going to give my voice a rest and I'm going to hand over to Richard Screaton.
Thanks very much, Catherine. Yes, and please do make nominations for those awards if you know people who you think might deserve them. The university's bicentenary, many of you will already be aware that next year is the university's 200th birthday, and it's an important time. We'll be celebrating 200 years of learning and innovation and research and improving the world for the better, and 200 years of incredible people in our community, and 200 years of global influence. And we'll be reflecting on the past, recognising our key discoveries, innovative ideas and world firsts. And it's also going to be a time to look forward to what our 3rd century might bring. And everybody is invited. So Universally Manchester will be the name of our Bicentenary Festival. And that'll be held between the 6th and 9th of June 2024. And it will be a diverse, accessible programme of events that will include talks and music and tours, and it'll have a focus on creating that greener, fairer and healthier world. So if you feel like you've got something that you can bring to the party, we want to hear your ideas. It might be raising awareness of climate change research through dance, or providing a sneak peek into the world of robotics through a behind-the-scenes tour, or teaching the beauty of calligraphy. We're open to contributions of all types, including in-person, online, hybrid, any sort of format that you can think of. So you might, for example, want to give a talk or a presentation, host an open lab, run an information stand, or put on an immersive event. And you can apply online to be part of the festival at the link below the video. Now, we'll also be holding events internationally for our global alumni community, as well as supporting regional volunteers to host their own events. And we'll be sharing details of how we'll be doing that in the coming months. So make sure that you do keep your contact details up to date with us so that we can keep in touch with you and so that we know where in the world you are. And if you're in the UK next year, you'll be able to participate in the Purple Wave. So on May 26th next year, we're inviting our alumni to walk or jog the Manchester 10K and the Manchester Half Marathon. And to mark the occasion, we're delighted to be offering our alumni discounted rates to participate. And if you fundraise through the Purple Wave, your entry will be free. And again, you can see more details on that below. So, as April mentioned earlier, our donor community, alumni and donors, are currently supporting over 1,000 of our students. And one of them, Ella, has shared her story. So I hope you'll enjoy seeing the difference that our donations are making while we watch this short video.
I was very excited when I got into university because I'm the first member of my family to go to university. I think I just wanted to make them all proud. Well, I'm very close with my mum because she's a single mum. She's a huge inspiration for me because she's so strong. So I took part in the Manchester Access programme and it came about from my college. They put me onto it and I really enjoyed doing it. I really don't think that I would have been able to go to university without that programme. It was so helpful. The scholarship has benefited me so much. It's enabled me to get to university. Travel can be quite expensive, so it enabled me to get a bus pass, which I use every day in order to get here. Also, to pay for societies, I've joined the climbing society, and because I'm a commuter student, it's been really difficult to form friendships. So being a part of the climbing society has really helped, and that wouldn't have been possible without the scholarship. Well, I knew that the university was ranked really high. If I did choose to go into law, I knew that that would be a very competitive industry, so having a very highly ranking university that I went to, I knew that would help. When I was told about it, that the scholarship was funded by donors, I was so grateful. I couldn't believe that people would be so generous. The support that I've received throughout my journey has been so meaningful to me. It feels really nice walking around on campus and feeling like a university student. Every single gift, big or small, can make a huge difference to students like me. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that. And if you'd like to help more students like Ella to study at Manchester, then please visit manchester.ac.uk/donate. So to your questions, and I'm now going to introduce Tom Fern, one of my colleagues here, who's going to ask questions that you've submitted. We won't have the chance to answer all your questions in today's meeting, but we'll do our best to respond to them in our next alumni newsletter. So Tom, over to you.
Thank you very much, Richard. The first one I'm going to direct to April. And the question's asking, how are you helping to support students during the rise in Islamophobia and anti-Semitism due to the Israel and Palestine situation? So April, can I hand that one over to you, please?
Thanks very much, Tom, and thank you for your question. It is a desperate situation, and of course we understand that there are many in our university community, particularly but not exclusively those who have friends and family or close ties to that region, who are going to be deeply concerned about the escalating violence and the loss of life and the dreadful situation in Israel and Palestine. So As you would expect, the university and the Students' Union are in active and ongoing discussions together, but also discussions with representative groups, which is so important because we can't know exactly how people are feeling who are really directly impacted by that situation. So we need to keep those lines of dialogue open so that we can understand more and be clear about how we can help and support. So in line with our values, we have been really careful to reaffirm constantly the importance of mutual tolerance and understanding at this very difficult and sensitive time. And we absolutely recognise and we support peaceful and respectful protest and the right to free speech within the law. And I think it's so important to emphasise that, because you do hear universities constructed as places where you can't say things, you can't do things, and there are challenges to freedom of speech, and we don't recognise that description. You know, we really work hard to make sure that where protest is peaceful and legal, then that can continue. But we do have to restate, on the other hand, that any and all forms of racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, any sort of discrimination and any sort of abuse, none of those things have got any place in our community. And that means it doesn't matter when and how you say those things. It can be comments in social media, it can be at a rally or an event, doesn't matter. We can't and we won't tolerate those things from happening. And as part of that, we've made joint statements from the university and the Students' Union. Hannah, our Student Union Union Affairs Officer, and Nancy, our President and Vice Chancellor, did make a joint statement, and that was really important for our staff and students. And we've also had joint statements from our Jewish and Muslim chaplains, and those are all constant reminders of the need for tolerance, the fact that discrimination has no place on our campus, and just constant reminders as well to staff and students and community members of the support that we can actually provide. And I should also say that as well as our own internal efforts to support our communities, Greater Manchester Police are also actively meeting with all Jewish and Muslim centres and with representative groups to offer help and added reassurance, because it's so important that people should feel safe and people should feel secure. And they shouldn't be needing to deal with all of these things going on in the world and in their own lives and actually feel threatened or challenged in any way on top of that. We have had a small number of concerns that have been raised with us on campus. They've been picked up through our report and support system, which are being acted on as a priority. We're taking those forward as quickly and as comprehensively as we can. And so I suppose, in short, to conclude, please be assured of our commitment to acting and living as a good community, and also to good community relations at this time. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, April. This one I'm going to direct to you, Richard, and this is a question we received. How can you make sure that our UMIST alumni feel adequately represented in the university scene in what feels like a takeover rather than a merger? So, Richard, I'll hand over to you to answer that one.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, I think we've got a few questions. So our UMIST alumni, they're not just an important part of our past, they're also a key part of our future as well. Katherine, when she was speaking earlier, mentioned Ella Podmore MBE. And Ella is somebody who was inspired to come to the university by those people who made discoveries at UMIST, and now Ella herself is inspiring the next generation of materials science and engineering students to come to Manchester. and she's been recognised with an MBE for that work. And of course, April mentioned the honorary degree that we conferred on Sir Kevin Leeson, who is a UMIS graduate earlier in the year. And I think the achievements of our UMIS alumni have helped to kind of pave the way for the future of science and engineering at the university. And whenever we speak to UMIS alumni, we hear that North Campus and the Sackville Street building are not just a key part and a key chapter in their lives, but they're a key chapter in the story of the university. And they'll continue to shape that. So at the moment, we're in partnership to develop the ID Manchester Innovation District, and that's something that we're developing, and it's going to develop that part of the university estate. And of course, UMIS can trace its origins back to the Manchester Mechanics Institution, founded in 1824, 200 years ago next year. And so, as you've heard earlier, we'll be celebrating that as part of our bicentenary year. And as I say, we hope that you'll join us. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much, Richard. This one's going to go to Katherine. Apologies, Katherine. I know you're trying to rest your voice. But Dr. Graham Finney has been in touch to ask, or to say that Manchester alumni are spread far and wide. What events are planned outside of Manchester, where and on what dates? If you could talk us through our plans there, that'd be fantastic.
I will, thank you. And just to kind of support Richard's point about UMIS, I'm a University of Manchester graduate married to a UMIS graduate. And so I can confirm that the university does see both sides of that coin, and that really is represented. And I wanted to add that because it is one of those questions that comes up. But believe me, I would be in significant domestic trouble if I allowed UMIS to be erased in any way. So turning now to the spread of our alumni globally, you're quite right. We've got over 500,000 alumni living in more than 190 countries worldwide. So the events team are an extraordinary collection of people who pull off what often looks to me like an impossible schedule of events. I cannot overstate how good they are at making incredibly difficult, complex work look like something you just turn up and do, because the attention to detail, the serious planning, and the way that things are put together is honestly amazing to see. And I wanted to really publicly recognise that team for the work that they do and the events that they deliver. In 2024, they've got events planned all over the world, which are going to include get-togethers in Dubai, China, and the United States, smaller scale meetups in Australia, Kazakhstan, and Argentina. There's the whole bicentenary events happening. There's the normal calendar of events happening, and there is a lot going on. But I appreciate it doesn't always feel easy to find out what's happening. There is an alumni newsletter every fortnight, which is always going to have the most up-to-date information about what we're planning. As Richard said, if you're not getting that, then please check that we've got the right information for you. It's a good read. It's a good thing to watch out for in your inbox. But the other thing is, there's 500,000 of you. And if there isn't something happening and you feel that you'd like to happen, or something to happen locally for you, then it's time for some of that Manchester spirit to be developed and to be pushed into the world again. So if you have something that you'd like to organise and what you need is some support promoting it to alumni in your area, then tell the team. So if you email alumni@manchester.ac.uk, that will get to the people who'll then be able to respond and tell you what level of support that can be offered, and can share those messages about local events happening. I think it's also important to remember that every student's experience of Manchester is individual, and your connections and the things that you're interested in are yours. We can't necessarily represent all of that centrally, but we will promote and encourage connections. Wherever you are in the world, a lot of the alumni events are live streamed, including the annual Cockcroft-Rutherford lecture. Now, this year's lecture was from Professor Tony Redmond, OBE. It was a must watch when it happened. Given what has happened globally since, I would argue it's even more relevant. Tony was passionate, interesting, engaged, motivating, and it's just an all-round brilliant thing to watch. And I have to recommend his book as well, because that's also a jolly good read. Be warned, it's not always a comfortable watch, but it's a great watch. And next year, Bicentenary, loads happening. I have blocked out time to come up to Manchester and enjoy it. And I'm looking forward to seeing lots of you there.
Thanks very much for that, Katherine. We've got another question which is kind of related to this, but I'm gonna save your voice, Katherine, and fire it over to Richard. Unfortunately, the name of the person who asked it is just flown off my screen. But the person asks, are there any active alumni in the Nordics? They've just moved to Sweden from Dubai, and there doesn't seem to be anything happening in the regions. So, Richard, what would you advise that they do?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So I just want to follow up on a point that Katherine made. As well as letting us know your contact details, let us know where in the world you are, because we will make sure that the invitations that we send to you and the awareness of the event, we are raising it specifically to your region so that we don't have to be able to tell everybody about everything. So please, as well, let us know where in the world you are. So yeah, if you are in a region, in a place, and you want to get in touch with some other alumni, there are two ways to go about that. One is that on our website, your.manchester.ac.uk, you can see a list of our contacts in that region. These are people who are volunteers who have agreed to represent the university in that region and coordinate activity. And they're doing it on a voluntary basis. So manage your expectations of their support accordingly, but they are there to help you, put you in touch with other people and arrange activity for alumni locally. The other thing I'd say is, if having looked at that page, you can't find a local representative, get in touch with us at alumni@manchester.ac.uk, and we'll give you the support that you need to start a local base of activity there in terms of getting in touch with people who are also in that area. So if you've come somewhere and you're not aware of any fellow alumni, take a look at the website. If you can't find anyone there, get in touch with us and we'll support you to reach out to others. Thanks, Tom.
Can I just add to that? That answering one of those calls is how I got to be involved with the association. And it's just been an absolute joy to be involved over the years. So if you're thinking about dipping your toe in the water, then absolutely do it. The benefits that it brings to you and then the benefit it brings to the university are just extraordinary.
Thank you very much, both. And another one for Richard. Richard, this is one we're asked very regularly, and that's about library access after people have graduated. So if you could tell us a little bit about how people do that and what access we offer, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So you can access the library in person on campus. In order to arrange to do that, it's probably best if you just get in touch with us first beforehand so that we can let you know the process rather than making a wasted journey onto campus. Yeah, so again, it's one of those things, if you email us, alumni@manchester.ac.uk, we'll be able to let you know the process for getting access to the library in person. Obviously, the vast majority of our alumni aren't actually in Manchester. So one of our most popular provisions that we make for our alumni are our online databases. We don't exhaustively offer all of the databases that are available to students because there are subscription costs attached to that, and for 500,000 people that's not possible, but we do to the most popular ones, and again you can see how to access that on our website, your.manchester. But again, if you're struggling with any element of accessing that, we can help you directly if you want to get in touch by email.
Thank you very much, Richard. So just to reiterate, unfortunately, we can't answer all of the questions that have been submitted, and thank you to everybody who has submitted one. What we'll do, though, is we will do our best to follow up on them in our next email newsletter, where you'll also be able to rewatch this meeting, and that's due 2 weeks today. And also, you're always welcome to email us at alumni@manchester.ac.uk, and we'll always do our best to get back to you as soon as possible. So have got one final question, a very positive one to end on, and it's one to each member of the panel, and that's to ask what excites you most about the future of the university. And I'm going to start off by going to April and put her on the spot with that one.
Put me on the spot. Go on then. So I'm looking forward to the Bicentenary. I have to say, things have been tough for a lot of people recently, and having a very good reason to celebrate is brilliant. So looking forward to getting into the start of our next 200 years. The big excitement for me is to be sector leading in the support that we offer for our students, and to make sure that that support reaches even more students. We've shown through COVID and through the cost of living crisis that we can do really outstanding student support work when there is a crisis. But how can we work together to make that outstanding level of support something that we can do absolutely every day and every year? So that's what excites me.
Thank you, April. I'm going to ask the same question now to Katherine.
I really struggle with this, because my honest answer is everything. And that is because my understanding of the scope of what is possible at Manchester is that it is limitless. Whether it's student experience, research, commercialisation of research, the next 200 years are going to be mind-blowing. And I love the fact that Manchester sees that as just a really exciting opportunity. And there is no kind of sense of trying to limit any of that ambition or any of that drive to make it manageable. It's more like, let's hold on and see where we get to. And that protecting that spirit of innovation, inquiry, curiosity, social responsibility, civic responsibility in a competitive higher education environment in difficult times is, I think, genuine testament to the people that work at the university and the students that study there. And so I am excited about everything, and I cannot wait to see what happens next.
Thanks, Katherine. And Richard, over to you. What excites you most about the future of the university?
What I want people to do is to go to a part of the university website that looks at our research impact case studies, Manchester Research Impact Case Studies. Because if you consider some of the practical applications of the world-class research that is happening at the university, it does have the potential to transform society here. I mean, we do talk a lot about graphene, but the potential of graphene in terms of providing clean water, or in terms of helping sustainable energy, climate crisis, and graphene is just one example that we talk about. But if you go to our website and look at our research impact case studies, it's the amount of stuff that's going on, and the actual real world application of what people are doing and people are working out how to do is tremendous. So yeah, the potential of the people that work here and the work that they're doing is tremendous.
Wonderful, thank you, Richard. We'll make sure we put a link to that research impact, those research impact web pages on our next newsletter. Something else we'll put in our next newsletter is a video we were going to close on kind of our social responsibility achievements. You've asked us so many questions that I don't think we'll have time to play that, but we will make sure we feature that in our next newsletter. So thank you very much for all your questions. As I mentioned, we will answer more of them in our next alumni newsletter, and you can always email us at alumni@manchester.ac.uk as well. But I'm going to hand over to Katherine, who's going to bid farewell.
Yeah. It's a thank you and farewell. And we say thank you a lot in these meetings, but I'm not going to apologise for that because there's a lot to say thank you about. April, thank you for bringing us up to date on the university and also for your commitment to students. It's just brilliant. Richard, thank you to you and the team for continuing to deliver exceptional and outstanding results. And thank you to everybody that's watched this. Thank you to everybody that has volunteered, is going to volunteer, is going to come to the Bicentenary, go to the museum, read a reshares. All of those things is what makes doing this brilliant. So thank you to everybody, and we'll see you next year.